Hey, what is up guys? My name's TG Meza and today I'm going to be bringing you the third and final episode in my series of how to rank up insanely fast on Call of Duty Ghosts. So in previous episodes we covered how to make the maximum points out of playing cranked using a specialist technique that I've used in the past, and also how to make the maximum points from capping the objective in Dom using some techniques that I've learned on the way to 10th Prestige, so be sure to check those out if you haven't already. But anyway, this time out we're going to be playing some Drop Zone, and I'm going to be giving you two techniques for the price of one depending on your playstyle. So here's the class that we're going to be using, and you can use either an LMG or an SMG for this, although personally I like to use an SMG most of the time, although occasionally I employ the LMG and I put it in this video so I can demonstrate to you guys how to use it in a couple of short clips. But anyway, for the SMG, I would recommend you can use anyone you really want. My personal favourites are the MTAR, the recently buffed Vector, which has become a lot better recently, and I'll cover that more in a future episode, or also the K7, because it allows me that extra attachment because it already has a silencer on board. So if you're using an LMG because you're not such a fan of SMGs or you're not as aggressive a player, then I personally recommend either the Ameli or the M27 IAR. Both of those are really good SMGs, although the M27 has a bit more range, so if you'd like to play a bit more passively and a bit further away from the objectives, then that's probably going to be more the type of gun for you, although they're both fine guns. Okay, so for the LMGs, I would recommend a thermal sight for the M27. Definitely get a silencer on there because that's really useful in helping you to stay alive. And I wouldn't recommend extended mags because at some point within your 100 bullets you will find time to reload. And you can also get a sight really if you're not comfortable with the irons on either. Although I would also recommend the foregrip because particularly for the M27, I find it has some annoying lateral recoil at the long distances. So instead of going up and down, so you stay on their body, it moves side to side, so you have to do a lot of recoil control, and the grip really helps with that. So anyway, now on to the lethal, tactical and secondary. I am not personally running any, although if you are using an LMG, then of course it is always up to you whether you want to use that one perk point to get yourself the pistol so that you can move around a lot quicker when you're not involved in gunfights, which can be quite helpful on Drop Zone because in between the drop zones, after one has just finished and you're getting to the next one, you're probably not going to be in very many firefights, so the pistol can be helpful in getting you there a little bit quicker. But anyway, for the lethal, I don't usually run one, although I will stick one on if I'm playing against a very heavily objective group, say a full party or 4 or 5 man party or something like that, because they're all going to be getting on the drop zone, and rather than trying to clear them out all at the same time with my gun, which is going to be very hard for me and I'm not going to win that gunfight a lot of times, I can just throw C4 in or a frag grenade or something like that and clear it out without having to fire a single shot, which can be very helpful. Now when it comes to your tactical, you can run stuns if you want. They are very helpful and they're very annoying. Although I would also recommend some smoke grenades as a potential one. Just with the SMGs, you can cover the objective in smokes before the opposing team has even got there, and you can just get on there and be covered. Also with an LMG, if you're running that thermal sight and you're staying off from the objective, if you put those smokes down, you can cover yourself so that the enemy can't be firing back, and you can just be sorted to be hitting the objective from a long range with no chance of anyone returning fire. Which really does bring me on to the strategies that you're going to be using with these two different types of guns. With the LMG, you're going to be looking to stand off, clear out the objective, and then move in there and get those 20 points for every second you can hold it after you've cleared it out, so that all the enemies spawned on the opposite side of the map and you can just be sitting there racking up points. With the SMG, you're going to be using that superior mobility so that you can be going in and out of the objective, hopefully getting there before the opposition can, so that you can stay there, survive the carnage for as long as possible and pick up points in the process. So now to the perks that you're going to be using. I would recommend Dead Silence, Amplify and Focus as always, because I find them to be three of the absolute best perks in the game, especially considering that you only pay 2 points for them. They should be easy to integrate at least 2 of them into your class. Aside from that, I recommend Ready Up and Steady Aim when you're running with the SMG, so that you can get your guard up to return fire quickly, and also because when you're playing with the SMG you're going to be playing very aggressively. It's not always going to be possible for you to step back and aim up so that you can pick people off, and sometimes you may have to hip fire, and it comes in very handy during those situations. I'd also recommend Agility, because no matter what, if you're trying to rank up fast, then if you're moving about the map quicker, it logically means that you're going to be in more gunfights, you're going to get to the objectives quicker so that you can stay on them longer, and it basically means that you're just going to rank up a lot faster with this perk. Some other perks which I'd recommend, which I'm not using here on this class, are Stalker for the LMG, particularly in favour of Ready Up and Steady Aim, because you're not going to be sprinting around as much, and instead being able to move about whilst you're shooting and make yourself a harder target to hit can prove more valuable. Attack Resist and Blast Shield can also be very valuable perks if slightly situational. If you have enough classes because you bought the extra loadouts, then it can be very handy to have extra copies of some of your favourite classes where they have this on them, so that if someone on the other team is running a lot of flashbangs or maybe some semtexes or frag grenades, then you can change to this class and you can nullify their effects and continue playing as you were before without having to worry about all of the grenades coming in. So that concludes the class that we're going to be using, as obviously you're not going to be using a strike package, as this is drop zone and you don't get any kill streak rewards in this. Even if you run specialist, you just pick them up all from the care packages dropped in game. So now for a couple of tips which I've picked up whilst playing drop zone. Now the first of these would be to familiarise yourself a lot with the maps and where the drop zones are and how you can get into them without being in direct line of fire. For instance, in Strike Zone, one of the drop zones is located just outside the kitchen, which leads between the bar and the central courtyard. The drop zone is within the central courtyard, but you can be within its boundaries from inside the kitchen. This means that you're a lot less exposed, and particularly if you're there with a teammate or a party member, you can cover both of the entrances and exits whilst picking up 20 XP for every second you're there, which is a very useful place to be, and while that drop zone's there, it's going to be very hard for anyone on the other team to clear you out. Another thing I'd recommend is being very careful with which care packages you decide to go for and try and pick up, because if done correctly you can get yourself some very powerful kill streak rewards quite easily just by being in the right place at the right time, but you need to be able to judge it correctly of when to go for one and when to sit back. An example of this comes at the beginning of this video when I was confronted with the decision of whether or not to go for a Helo Pilot care package. If I had gone for it straight away, then I would probably have been killed by several of the people around also trying to get it. However, I delayed it and waited until I cleared out the area of all the other people challenging for it, so I managed to get myself some free kills and then collected the Helo Pilot afterwards, which I got a lot of kills from. This is the kind of thing which you need to bear in mind when you go for care packages, as if you see a really high one, it can be very tempting to rush straight in there. But don't forget that the enemy are watching the drop zone, and if someone's going for a care package, they're going to realise that it's quite a high one for someone to risk their life for it. So be careful about that. Another thing to bear in mind is not to neglect the easier to get but lower value care packages. One of the examples of this would be the support squad mate. This is often left unchallenged as it's one of the less glamorous kill streaks to try and gain. However, if you're going purely for the XP that you'll be gaining, Support Squad Mate allows you to double XP from it within the drop zone, as you'll be getting a similar effect to when you're playing Domination and you cap a flag with the Support Squad Mate, when it counts as 2 caps instead of 1. However, in this case, it will be counting as 2 people in the drop zone for you instead of just you by yourself. So you'll be getting 40 XP every single second. This can be very useful. Some other kill streaks to look out for, even though they can be quite underwhelming when compared with challenging for a Battle Hind or Helo Pilot, are the IMS and Sentry Gun, as these can just be put in place and left overlooking on the drop zone, and provided that you give a reasonable degree of protection to their back, no one in the enemy team will be able to get into the drop zone, or alternatively, you can use them to cover your back whilst you're in the drop zone so that no one can challenge you and get you out of there so that you can continue earning XP. The guard dog can also be useful for this, however it is more vulnerable to people taking out from afar as it doesn't have quite as much health and it does move around a bit and can walk into people's lines of fire. I hope that you've enjoyed this series and it's helped you along on your road to 10th Prestige. Don't forget to leave a like if it has. Thanks for watching, and as always, I've been TG Meza, you guys have been great, see you next time.